Hi there, welcome to the latest Democracy 4 developer blog. I am Cliff, I'm the coder and designer on the game. I'm going to talk about the stuff that we've added to the game in the last 2 weeks, because we do these videos every 2 weeks. There's actually quite a lot of stuff that's gone in the last 2 weeks. I've got a little list here. One of the most kind of apparent things is Spain. Spain is in the game, so we're still adding new countries. And we're doing this on the basis of like how people vote as to what we should do next. So we have South Korea coming up next. That's South Korea, as I'm sure you know, and then that's Italy, and then I don't know what else. I'm quite excited about having South Korea in because it's going to be very different. So anyway, Spain is in. We have to do a load of research onto stuff and make sure that we have like up-to-date data on it. So I'm just going to jump into it now and talk about some of the stuff that is in there that is different to everything else. Green screen's a nightmare. Anyway, blah blah blah, here we are in Spain. Some of the a lot of stuff will change over time in that we'll add more stuff that is specific to each country, because some of these things happen too often, like some of the strikes happen too often. But it's quite interesting because the way we've set things up, there's a corporate exodus from Spain, which is interesting. You've probably got views on that if you live in Spain, whether or not that's the case or not. Because they have quite a lot of labour protection in Spain. It's funny because apparently there's a lot of like kind of part-time and unprotected jobs, but then like if you do have a full-time job, then the protection is quite strong, which is a weird sort of like setup, I guess. I don't know. So there are a few extra things that are in Spain to make it more Spanish. One of the things is we've had to artificially make the people healthier than they would be. And we put this down to like a Mediterranean diet. Did a bit of like reading about it. So basically the diet of people in Spain is good, and therefore they don't start off with obesity and other health problems. I'm not quite sure where it ends up in the end. Is that health? Blah 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 blah. It might be a hidden input to reduce obesity. I think that's where it is actually. But anyway, the Mediterranean diet is in. Something else that's in that is hidden and you won't see immediately is that there is more terrorism. Now, Spain obviously has problems with kind of separatist groups that historically definitely have been a real terrorist threat. So so that's in there. We haven't put in any new like situations or any new dilemmas yet, but this is something I want to do when the whole simulation is balanced, because then it makes it a lot easier, and then there's time to get a lot of feedback from people who live in Spain and sort of say, oh, in Spain, you know, this is the law but no one listens to it, or whatever, you know, all that kind of stuff that doesn't show up when you Google. Okay, so Spain is in, and that's good, and we've got other countries coming at some point. Something that loads of people wanted, and I don't get it, I don't know why you care, but you do, so it's gone in because you're the players. It's like this number here, so it's 12,553,000 environmentalists. Well, let's check it. Let's check it. Let's do something that makes more environmentalists. So if we look at membership, so recycling generates more environmentalists. So okay, I'm going to go nuts on the recycling. So there are 12,553. No, sorry, this isn't what I should be doing. I should be changing the population. Okay, so forget that. Let's just go with young people. 10,426,142. 10,426,142. If we just like move on, I think that will change. What was it? Young people. Yes, it's changed. So the population is changing over time, right? In simulation terms, it doesn't matter. Like the number of simulated voters is always the same, but the number of voters that they simulate changes if you change population. So what we're getting at is if you have policies to do with childcare that lead to a higher birth rate, that number will go up for everyone, you know, the total population will go up, and it's done throughout the game, so these numbers will also go up or down. and the number of people in a party will go up and down, the number of votes. So people were annoyed that they do policies that would reduce population or increase it through immigration and stuff, and the actual hard numbers never changed. Anyway, they do now. It was easy. Something else that's been done, I'm going to censor video games. Yes. Come at me. Is this screen coming up here. So this used to have loads of items in it depending what happened, and some would not trigger if there were lots of others. Something that I've done now is some of it is like sorted by priority, and some stuff just gets left off if it's not important. So you might notice that now and then you would get like a report saying, well, like, here's the polls, like we're doing really badly in the polls right now. So sometimes you would get like reports saying polls are fine, or like a report on the economy saying the global economy is, and it's like you don't need to know that. You only need to know if it's really bad or if it's really good, and the same with the polls. So so this has been tidied up, so you'll get less wasted nonsense here, is what I'm getting at. So that's a good thing that's new. There was a bit of an exploit that people noticed, that when you started a speech close to an election, I can't do one yet because we're not close to an election, when a speech was running you could hit escape and then run it again and get all the benefits again. Fix that. You can't do that. Hitting escape does nothing now on that screen. This is something else that is quite interesting. So if we go to polls, this is something that's been in the game for a long time, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to load a saved game. I'm going to have to load a saved game to show you, which is fine. I've got a German one that's really... Oh, yeah, here's one that I had specifically to test this, actually, so that's good. Right, what am I doing? So if I go back to that screen and take a look there. Here we go. So cynicism. So yeah, the religious voters in this game are cynical, and you know, that's always been in there and it's always been modelled. But if I go into it now, if I actually click on them and go and take a look at them and I hover over it, it will tell you why. Because previously you just had to kind of like guess what happened. So what happened is we changed a policy, legalised sex work just before an election. So basically we outlawed prostitution just before an election. And religious people like that you've outlawed it, but religious people, like anyone else, have noticed that you've ignored the issue until just before the election. Then you've done it just then. So they are pleased about it, but they're also a bit cynical about it. And if you have a long list of stuff, maybe you've done like a policy reversal and stuff like that, you'll have a breakdown there of all the reasons that that group is cynical. So that's been done. There's another thing that's been fixed that probably you won't be able to see on this because it just hasn't reached rock bottom. But if you were doing quite well and in certain circumstances on certain levels, the global economy would go into mega flat recession and maybe stay there. That's been fixed, so that's good. What I'm currently doing at the moment is changes to education. Generally speaking, education in the game got too high too easily. It was a problem that people never had. It was easy to fix. Most people, if you look at the stats, have like maxed out education after 2 terms or whatever. So we've made it a bit harder. I've only tweaked it slightly. What we've done is make the effects on education take longer. Normally like 3 or 4 years for each change. And some of them were a lot shorter than that. And the idea is that, yeah, you know, for example, if you increase, I think prisons have an impact on education. And you might think, why is that the case? And it's the case because a lot of people who end up in prison, where's just the general prison thing? I don't know if you know, but you can go up here, or you can just press Control F, and you can just start typing, and then you can find it. There you go. No, is it prison regime? I think it's prison regime, actually. Yeah, it has an effect on education. So if you're really harsh, it's negative. If you're really low, it's positive. The implication on that is that a lot of people end up in prison because they have a very low level of education. They skip school or whatever, and if you have a kind of gentle and well-funded prison system, you can then find those people in prison who just like can't read or do maths, and you can teach that. But obviously that takes a while, and also you've then got to wait for them to finish their term and go back out into society in order for the education impact to take any effect. I think I should make that one 16 as well. That's slow. That's too quick rather. Anyway, so we've been tweaking that so like education impacts take longer to take effect. I suspect, yeah, so that takes 16. I think he's just take 12. I don't know. We might push it up more, but I'd rather make small changes and see that they're okay first, and then maybe nudge them a little bit more, because I don't want to break the game. It's a very fragile simulation. Something else that we've done is fix borderless window mode, or rather like make borderless window mode work. So if you have a really big monitor, I've got a stupid sized monitor, 5120 by 1440, and you run the game in a window, that works fine. If you have a resolution for the game that is the same as your desktop resolution, then the game will run full screen, even if you set it to be in a window. Obviously there's no room for like the window stuff at the top, which you can't actually see here, so it will change it to be full screen. Now the problem is, for really boring technical reasons to do with video cards and graphics memory and stuff like that, running a game full screen is different to running it in a window. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes not. For example, if you have a laptop that has a really high dot pitch and done with really small like pixels, and the user interface in this game is too small for you, then what you can do is you can run it full screen but at a different resolution, and therefore everything is a more reasonable size. You can do that. But you might not want to do that. Okay, so you might want it to be the size of the full screen, but not actually be full screen. Anyway, in certain really rare circumstances, okay, this causes problems. You have a Skype window appear, or Discord or whatever, and it pops you out of the game, and then you can't get back into it and stuff like that. So there's a thing called borderless window mode, where you run the game in a window, but it's it's the size of the full screen and you can't move it. So as far as you know, it's full screen, but it's not. Anyway, I fixed it, that works. So you now have borderless window mode, which is great, and then you can just hit the Windows key and go back to the game and everything works perfectly. So that's in. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so something new that I've been thinking about putting in, and I think I am probably going to do it, I'm going to give myself another night's sleep to think about it, is get like a professional translation done for Russian and Polish. There's a lot of Russian strategy gamers, a lot of Polish strategy gamers. It's very expensive because the game's got like 70,000 words in, but I like, where possible, to get it done by like a professional company, because then it's all consistent. So there are certain words in the game like situation, or cabinet, or voter group, for example, that I use a lot in the game, but when you're translating into some languages, you could take that many ways, and if you have a company do it, it's consistent. Just note, this is Germany, isn't it? Just notice Germany has a space thing going on. This is quite late in the game. Cool, go German spaceships. So anyway, we're going to be doing that. Something else that I'm going to do is a screen resolution fixes. So, you know, this is the user interface and it's lovely and I'm very proud of it, especially all of this kind of gubbins. That's great fun. But certain things don't work very well at a super huge resolution. The game actually runs and works fine. You can play it at 5120 1440 res, but that little thing there becomes too big, and I'm sure there's other things. And currently you need an 800 height screen res to even play the game, and a lot of laptops don't have that, and you'll run into problems if you don't. And I'd like to fix that, so I'm going to spend some time working on checking the game is okay on different screen resolutions. It's a real nightmare. If you do a first-person shooter, it's easy. You stick a few readouts in the corner and then you have a 3D world at any resolution you like. If you're doing a game like this, and nobody does a game like this, with this sort of interface, you've got to work on every possible graphics card and every possible screen resolution, including different aspect ratios, and everything's got to be used correctly. Like, we don't have any wasted space here in the UI. There is no wasted space. It's all being used to show you something. So it's an optimum use case, but it's a nightmare. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now. So that's what's coming up, but obviously we have votes on what I should work on next, so keep an eye on that. There should be a new version coming probably tomorrow. I just want to check this education stuff hasn't broken anything, and then all of this stuff that I'm talking about will go in tomorrow. I think that's version 1.2. Anyway, thank you for watching these videos. If you like them, please subscribe to the channel, because it affects my self-esteem. It doesn't, but you might as well, like and subscribe and all that. Much more importantly, if you're playing the game and you like it and you bought it on Steam, if you leave us a positive Steam review, that is hugely appreciated. If you watch all these videos, you're sick of me going on about it, but like, I go on about it because it really does make a difference. It's really important. And please tell your friends as well. I know there's a lot of politics going on in the world, and I know people are really angry about politics all over the place, and I know why. But politics doesn't have to be like huge arguments on Reddit. It can actually be just interesting, and like an interesting sort of strategy thing to play with. So tell your friends, if they're into this stuff, there's this cool game. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in 2 weeks.